I want to speak to you on this subject. God is a good God. I'm holding my Bible in my hand because in a few moments I want to read from it again. The subject, God is a good God. Friends, in this world, people are not thinking straight. They're not thinking straight about a lot of things, and especially about the Lord.
What if one man dared to ask a question the world wasn't ready to answer? Is God good? All the time? Not just in church, not just in theory, but in hospital rooms, in broken homes, in places where hope barely breathes. For generations, religion tiptoed around that question. Doctrine debated it, tradition softened it. But then came a man from Oklahoma, tall, bold, unpolished, who refused to whisper what he believed should be shouted. A man who believed that God's goodness wasn't a concept to be debated. It was a living force to be experienced, to be proclaimed, and to be trusted with life itself. He didn't begin his journey with applause. He didn't begin with influence, education, or wealth. He began with a question that burned so fiercely inside him that it broke through fear, tradition, and the limits of his own past. A question that would drive him onto stages, into tents, onto television screens, and ultimately into the halls of a university that did not exist until he dared to build it. He didn't ask, "Can God heal?" He asked, "Why shouldn't he do it?" Today. He didn't ask, "Does God care?" He asked, "What if he's better than we ever imagined?" This story is not simply about miracles performed or crowds gathered. It is about a man who challenged the world to rethink God himself. Before the crowds, before the controversy, before the cameras, there was a single conviction that consumed him. God is a good God. On January 24th, 1918, a frail boy named Granville Oral Roberts was born in Ada, Oklahoma. His world was dust roads, oil rigs, poverty, and the quiet desperation of rural life in early 20th century America. His father was a humble Pentecostal preacher. His mother, a woman of deep prayer. Their home was rich in faith, though poor in resources. No one expected greatness from the stuttering, timid boy who hid behind his siblings, avoided attention, and struggled to speak. Confidence and belonging did not come naturally. Destiny often hides behind weakness and ordinary moments. For Oral Roberts, destiny appeared in the most unexpected form: sickness. At 17, while playing basketball, he collapsed. Diagnosed with advanced tuberculosis, a death sentence at the time, he was reduced to a ghost of himself, trapped in a bed, gasping for breath, losing weight, losing hope. Friends moved on. Dreams faded. Every breath felt like a question. Why me? Why now? Why this? But it is often when darkness seems absolute that God chooses to whisper one afternoon. His brother Elmer, desperate to save him, drove him to a tent meeting where a preacher named George Monsey prayed for the sick Oral was too weak to walk, too weak to stand, too weak to pray aloud. They carried him like a dying man. In that tent, with heat pressing down and dust in the air, something extraordinary happened. As Monsey prayed, Oral felt God speak clearly. "Son, I am going to heal you, and you are to take my healing power to your generation." Strength surged into lifeless limbs, his lungs filled, his legs steadied. The boy dying hours before walked out healed. What many would call a miracle became the defining moment of his life. From that instant, Oral knew his mission: to bring God's healing power to the world. Healing did not erase insecurity. Oral Roberts began preaching in small country churches, to congregations so small they barely filled the room. He stuttered, trembled, and wrestled with doubt. Poverty shadowed him. Are you really called? Did God really speak to you? Who do you think you are? Doubt whispered. Yet the fire inside refused to go out. The healing he experienced became the lens through which he saw every life. He felt called not just to preach, but to demonstrate God's power, to heal, restore, and show a world hungry for hope that the Creator of the universe cared personally about each individual. In 1947, God spoke again. Go build me a faith-healing ministry and get it onto radio and television. With no money or resources, Oral borrowed a tent and launched crusades across America. Crowds grew, from dozens to hundreds to thousands. Families travelled for days to enter the revival tent, eventually seating 12,000 people inside. The atmosphere was electric. People arrived crippled, blind, broken. They left with stories of healing, restoration, and hope reborn. Oral prayed for each person individually, touching their faces, holding their hands, speaking life over their broken bodies. His wife, Evelyn, stood faithfully by his side, organizing, supporting, and strengthening the ministry. Together, they poured their lives into each service, each prayer, each life touched. His simple, revolutionary message was repeated again and again. Expect a miracle. Through these crusades, Oral became one of the earliest leaders to bring healing revivalism into mainstream Christianity. He taught about seed faith, miracles, and the limitless power of God's provision. His influence spread globally, inspiring evangelists, shaping the charismatic movement, and showing that faith could be bold, active, and expectant. Not content to confine healing to tents, Oral saw the power of media to expand God's reach. He was among the first evangelists to use television to broadcast healing services. Millions watched as he prayed for the sick, spoke of God's goodness, and shared testimonies of lives transformed. Television brought faith and hope into living rooms across America, showing the world that miracles were available now for those who believed. In 1963, Oral announced a vision many thought impossible: a university in Tulsa, Oklahoma. ORU would not simply teach academics, it would educate the whole person, spirit, mind, and body. Brick by brick, prayer by prayer, the campus took shape. The prayer tower became a symbol of faith and dedication. Students learned to hear God's voice, integrate knowledge and spirituality, and prepare for lives of service and leadership. Oral's vision extended further. He dreamed of merging faith and medicine. The City of Faith. Medical and Research Center was ambitious, a hospital where doctors and chaplains worked side by side, blending prayer and science. The project faced immense challenges, financial struggles, public skepticism, and eventual closure. Yet even in failure, Oral demonstrated unwavering obedience to God's call. His belief that miracles could intersect with medicine left a legacy that continues to inspire discussions about faith and healing. No life of faith is without opposition. Oral faced criticism from media, churches, and skeptics. Some questioned his healing claims. Others challenged his prosperity teachings. In 1987, a notable controversy arose when he announced God had warned him he would die unless $8 million was raised for ORU. The media backlash was fierce, and his reputation faced scrutiny. Yet, even amidst criticism, Oral remained steadfast, teaching that faith often requires risk, courage, and expectation. Throughout it all, Evelyn Roberts was his partner in ministry and life. Their children grew up in a household of faith and service. Richard Roberts later followed in his father's footsteps at ORU, continuing the vision life was not without tragedy. Oral and Evelyn lost 2 children, leaving emotional scars even faith could not immediately erase. Yet through these losses, Oral's reliance on God deepened, and his message of hope became all the more authentic. As Oral aged, he continued to teach, preach, and inspire. His health declined, but his voice remained strong, carrying lessons learned from a lifetime of obedience, trial, and miracles. He passed in 2009, leaving behind a legacy that shaped charismatic Christianity, Christian education, healing ministry, and media evangelism. ORU continues to educate students. Healing ministries worldwide carry his methods. Television evangelism owes much to his pioneering vision. Oral Roberts' life reminds us that miracles are not relics of the past. They belong to anyone who dares to believe, to step out in faith, and to declare, "God is a good God, expect a miracle." From a sick boy in rural Oklahoma, to a global evangelist, to a builder of institutions. This is not just the story of a man. It is the story of faith that refused to die. A story of obedience, courage, and a question that challenged the world. Is God truly good all the time? And perhaps, like Oral Roberts, we are all still learning how to answer.